Hello.
Yes, hello. Bear with me for 1 second. Are you there?
I believe I'm here.
You are here. So you're here, and Gilda is here.
Oh, great.
So I want to welcome Gilda and Rafael to tonight's episode on ancestral muses, where we're going to be talking about mental health, mental illness. And interestingly enough, and I'm hoping to record the audio and do that as a separate episode. On Friday, the Congressional Black Caucus held a town hall and they talked about what? Mental health and mental illness, which I thought that was very interesting. But I want to welcome everyone who is listening to this episode. And I just want to start out by trying to come up with a definition of what mental illness is perceived to be. Mental illness is perceived to be conditions that affect a person's thinking, feelings, mood, or their behavior. So, some examples of things that have been defined, believe it or not, as mental illness are things such as clinical depression, anxiety disorders, which can include eating disorders, bipolar disorder, dementia, attention deficit, hyperactivity disorder, schizophrenia, autism spectrum disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, obsessive compulsive disorder, phobias, substance use disorder, personality disorder, mood disorders. This is by no means an exhaustive list, but I thought it would be important for us to have, if you will, a baseline understanding of all of the things that are considered to be, quote, mental illness. Particularly today, throughout the world, people have been placed in what I like to call timeouts. And we know basically that people, human beings, we are social people. We need to be connected to each other, to people, be that our family, our friends, our loved ones. And for so many of us, we've been unable to be, quote, social, to gather in ways that we're used to gathering. And so for some of us, we're missing that social component of being able to be with family and friends for fear that, we may cause them harm, or that harm could come to them just by us hopefully minimizing our exposure when we go out. But anything and everything is possible in today's time. So I do want to thank you, Rafael. I want to thank you, Gilda, for being willing to have a chat with me. And I'm hopeful that a friend of mine, if we're still talking a little bit later, Deborah, may join us a little bit later on, but we'll see. So I guess initially, I would just ask who would like to start out by just sharing a little bit about themselves and where, if anywhere, do you fit within any of the quote categories that I've listed?
Uh, ladies first.
Oh, he said ladies first.
Okay. Well, gosh. I'm 60 years old. I have struggled with many of the mental labels. mainly under the umbrella of depression. My thing is defined as major depressive disorder. And basically, that just says to me that my main go to is not one of optimism. I have described it as living in the darkness. And just the moments in my life when I've not been in the darkness have been very surprising to me. It's like somebody turned the light on. And so when I'm not in my depression and the light is on, it's a very strange sensation, because it makes me ask, well, where have I been all this time? So throughout my life, like I said, I've had many different labels under that whole mental illness umbrella. So I've had major depressive disorder, I've had anxiety, I've had PTSD, post traumatic stress disorder. I've had agoraphobia, which is being afraid to go outside for fear of something catastrophic happening, or something bad is out there waiting to get me. Um, I guess, and those situations bring about emotional panic, and so then you have the physical sensations for me, which would be heart palpitations, sweating, um, labored breathing at times, sometimes even nausea. And I've had various medications throughout the years for that. And I pretty much found that those things really didn't help. What they did was kept me sleepy. And with no energy, which resulted in me spending years in the bed and isolated, because, nobody wants to be hanging out with you sleeping in the bed. So I've had some pretty dark moments in my life where not being here felt like the best option. A lot of reckless behavior because of my sadness. Couple hospital trips, and just being surprised at the other people that were at the hospital too. But because my hospital situations were voluntary, I was not committed. I didn't have to stay. I could get out. So I never had to like spend a night or anything. But it was pretty stark um, in the mental wards, where everything is white. There's nothing in the rooms. You're in the room with nothing. So I guess, there were people there with various other issues, a lot of screaming, a lot of beating on things, a lot of violent behavior, which to me was frightening. And I was like, well, that's not me. I don't behave like that. So I don't know exactly what those disorders were, but for myself, it was always just a quiet, tearful darkness.
And if I could just interject, just so that people understand, I have known Gilda since she was 16. She came to college when she was 16. And so she said she's 60.
Mm-hmm.
On August the 4th next week, I will be 63. So that's how long I've known you, since you were 16. Oh my gosh. And so the point that I want to share, and the point that I want to make, is that one never knows. I mean, someone I've known practically most of my adult life, I never knew. Like when you were when we were in college together, were you during that time, were there times you were depressed when you were in college?
Extremely.
And I never knew. And so the point is, we don't know. I mean, and I think within the African American community, um, there's like this taboo relative to, oh no, you can't let people know, you can't reach out and get help. Only white people go and talk to psychologists and psychiatrists, and that is certainly a myth that we want to dispel, which is why we're engaging in this conversation, because so many times people that we know, that we care about, that we love, and I've always told Jill, and Jill has always known that I love her like a little sister, and I knew her mother and her father and her brother and her sisters, and you know the college that we went to, there were very few of us. So out of necessity, everybody was all up in everybody's Kool-Aid, and everybody knew everybody's family members. It was a family, one big happy family, or maybe sometimes it wasn't a happy family, but we were family, okay, people. And so the whole point is, part of the reason I'm doing this is so that people hopefully will be mindful and be considerate and be compassionate, because you never know the people you meet, the people your brother, your sister, family, friends, whomever. You never know unless you take the time, or you create somehow an environment so that they feel they can share their story with you, and that you don't reject them, or you don't make them feel, I don't even know what adjective I want to use, but you want to be, I think, supportive. You want to be caring. You want to be empathetic. You want to show compassion. And so Jill and I, we have a history. And so among my friends, they claim I'm running some kind of a boot camp. Okay. So, a couple years ago, Jill came and she stayed with me. And as they say, I thought I had her scraped. I thought she was scraped. But as you see, she's back for round two. But I want to acknowledge, and maybe you can talk a little bit about how you're even being here in Florida with me at this time. What a big step that was for you. So you want to talk a little bit about that? And we didn't forget about you, Rafael, okay?
Well, I'm just gonna summarize my situation real quick here. Um, I reached a crisis in my life, and there was nowhere to go. It was either remain in the darkness, where chances are I would have decided to take an exit, or get the hell up out of there, basically, and face the unknown and trust in a higher power, that God knew what was ahead for me, and that it was worth me trusting to see what the next chapter will bring. Before I came here, I was in a group uh, that was provided to me by my medical provider, and I was in something referred to as IOP, which is intensive outpatient program. And while there, we were in the COVID thing, so it was all online. But while there were about, I would say, 10 10 women of various ethnic background, but most of them, I think, were African American. And we had similar themes, different times in our lives, but similar themes of trying to figure out what our toolbox was going to be to help us navigate our dark times and our breakdowns, and how to keep going and how not to have to consider an exit strategy, which a number of those folks had. So,
And when you say exit strategy, what are you saying?
suicide. And the thing is that I want to explain about suicide, because a lot of people get angry when they hear you say that is something that is appealing to you. The reason why it is appealing is because you just want to stop the pain. You're not choosing to desert your family or your friends or your loved ones. You are simply trying to stop the pain that you are in that no one can see. And it wears on you. And you just want relief, really.
However, every time, or when you first told me that, I think I was in such a state of shock because I couldn't fathom. Because of course, I'm an optimist. I'm a fire sign. I'm Leo, the sun. I love the sun. I keep busy. I keep it moving. And since you've been here, you have been doing many things that, I kept saying to you, that you needed to do. So you've started walking.
Yes, I have.
And
being
in the sun.
Joy. It's been my joy.
Being in nature. And so, there are things that one can do,
Mm-hmm.
To flip the script. And I also told you your ancestors, your people didn't want you with them at this time. They don't want to be bothered with you, girl. They like, look, you need to keep it moving. And
well, I've decided to give it a try and to stay.
I'm so glad. Dang.
And especially now that I have such great tools and resources. And it also helps to know that I'm not alone.
No,
there are
you
many
are not
people
alone.
Walking that same struggle every day, every hour, every minute, every second. You just may not know who they are.
Correct. And then later, after we hear from Rafael, I did pull together some resources so that people, if they feel the need to reach out to professionals, they can get professional help. There are numerous hotlines out there. So I will share some of that information a little bit later on. Now, we didn't mean for you to monopolize the conversation. Are you still with us, Rafael?
Mm-hmm. Can you hear me?
All right. Would you like to share some of your story with us?
Well, I want.
Oh,
Yeah.
Jill wants to say
I just want
something
to
else.
say one last thing. Self-compassion. That's what we all have to have for ourselves. That's all we have is ourselves. And whether we've made mistakes, we're struggling, we have highs, we have lows, but we must have compassionate self-talk and compassionate self-care. And that would be my daily task. And I would pass that on to anyone who finds themselves in a situation where they feel alone. Don't give up on yourself.
And maybe you'll share from the training that you took a little bit later after we hear from Rafael, some of the specific either things they said you could do or exercises that you do to ground yourself and to maintain that level of positivity.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you, sister girl.
You are welcome. Rafael, take it away.
Um, you gotta remind me. Am I telling a story or what am I saying?
Whatever you want to say, sweetie. You
Which
can
one you want
share.
to say?
You can share your journey when you first became aware that you had a quote issue. What you have done since then. I mean, I know from my interactions with you that your, I want to say, how you cope is your music. I mean, you produce music. You're the music producer. I totally get that. And that is excellent for you, but I also know it probably has been a struggle for you, has it not?
Yeah, I think life is a struggle for everybody,
Indeed.
and I think that no one gets out unscathed. Um, and for one person it's this, one person is that, one person is cancer, one person is COVID. You know, um, these bodies are fragile, these minds are fragile,
True.
and like she said, without self love, um, the body can decay really fast, and that includes the mind. Um, so I think one thing I do want to start off. Well, I want to start off by saying my whole journey with mental health started with my father. He was the person I didn't even know about the whole world of psychotic or depression. I didn't know anything about that. I was, like you said, I was doing music, I was playing football, I was doing basketball, I was taking honor roll. So my father is the person that opened up this whole world. And this world, to me, was the connection between um, pretty much science, which is the psychiatry, the medicine, the diagnosis, and spirituality, which is where I was in my life, where I was in trouble. I was doing some bad things, and my thoughts were poor because my behavior was poor and my nature was I was not aligned. So my spirituality and the science and my dad took me to my first person doctor, and that's how everything started. And it was just a cycle, a race to be finished, a new journey, a
And
side journey.
how old were you at that time?
I was that was like 2008, so I was like 18.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And when you were 18, were you involved in music at that point? When did you first get involved with music?
Mm. Music was, that seeped into me in the backseat of my dad's Mercedes. I was playing Still Poles and Erica Badu and New Edition. So I was, people that really, really go back to the beginning of what I stand for. They know I was a kid that would bite his lip. I would bite my bottom lip all the time. And I would be in the back of cars and I would beat my head on the back of the seat. And they're like, what is he doing? And I'm like, I just beat my head. Like, it was just a rhythm. It was a rhythm, and I just needed to express myself. And um, I'm thinking about thoughts right now, but we can fast forward to later on in life. I realized, part of the mental diagnosis and like depression. I'm a firm believer that we're really not. I wrote it in my diary plenty of times. I'm not depressed. I just want to express myself, and I'm not. I'm getting bottled up energy, and I feel blue. But really, I need to go down in that basement, stop being lazy, and make a dang beat. Get on the keyboard, because as soon as I turn on the program, as soon as I touch the piano, I'm fine for a whole hour. I'm great for a whole hour, as I'm going through that puzzle of putting music together and recording it and mixing it. And I jump in my car and I listen to it, you know. So I remember just sitting on my grandma's big grand chair and I'm like, I'm depressed. But I'm like, I write in my diary, just go express yourself. When you're feeling blue, it's because there's something inside of you.
Correct.
And so that's kind of that's kind of a little summary of what I go through and how I manage and how I figure things out because it's just like right now I have such a big feeling inside of me. It's just a big, warm, loving feeling. I call it love because it's warm, and I have poetry that says
Ooh, so you're a
warm.
poet too?
I wrote poetry. No, I think the people that define that say I'm a poet, I've seen them. I was just watching a girl earlier on Facebook, and I went to some open mics, and they really like they're in like a different lane. I did it like as a coping, like you might say,
Okay.
because I've had these feelings, and it's just I didn't know what to do with it. I didn't know if when you feel this way, do you drink vodka? When you feel this way, do you go have sex? When you feel this way, you play a video game, and it's like nothing is doing it for me. So I had to learn just about this energy and what's inside of me, and that's why I went to church because they taught me things like grace and kindness and gentleness. That was a whole nother world opened up. Like I said, my world was football, basketball, and music, and school and grades. I was making A's and B's on the honor roll, and I got a scholarship. So, so when I felt like this, I just needed to know how to express myself. When I
Exactly.
got into church, they taught me these words that let me express myself. I could put my hands in the air and say, "Thank
Wave them
you,
around
God."
like you just don't care,
I
right?
you, and it's so liberating, But just
Yes.
think about it. If you're not in church, no one's going to throw their hands in the air unless you're at a concert,
Not
but it's
true.
still
Not
not the
true. Over
same.
here, we throw our hands up in the air when I throw the music on.
Okay, well, I'm just talking about myself right now. Um, so
Exactly.
like, I before that when I was in that world, so I had a lot of worlds to open up and that's kind of what happened. I got to this moment where I said, okay, this is the drawing point. Just like she said earlier, this is the defining decision. I
Mm-hmm.
can stay here and I'm comfortable. I'm king of my world. I'm being attacked, but I'm king of my world, and I can get what I want. Or I go out and I challenge the unknown. So at that same decision, I fell to complacency and settling. At 18 in college, girlfriend, nice car, music, friends, popular, everything, money. And I said, no, I want to know what I don't know. And that's
Yes.
when the diagnosis came, and my father came and got me. Literally came to college and got me, and pretty much brought me to the doctor, and that started this whole journey. So, find out where that takes us. Again, we're
Exactly.
believing.
So, in retrospect, what would you say um, to anyone that's listening that either, because I mean, okay, sometimes people know they have a problem and they want to do something proactive, or they have family members or they have friends that say, something is not right here, so they kind of nudge you in the right direction. Do Has it been your experience, do you think that there are people out there who have a problem and they don't know they have a problem, or they have a problem and they don't know how to deal with the problem, or they have a problem and because in our community, you know telling people or people knowing that you have a problem is kind of sort of like, why would you want to do that? Because those are the kind of things that generally, we don't want to address. But it's very, very, very real.
Are you speaking to me or Julia?
Whoever wants to answer.
Oh, well, you gotta your podcast. Who are you directing it to?
What did you
Hello?
say?
Are you directing it to me?
Yes.
Yes,
She's directing it to you.
Yes, and then Jill
Oh,
can answer if she wants, I guess.
okay.
I was just
So you said you're talking about people that have a problem, but they don't know they have a problem, while
Right, like
everyone else around them knows that they have a problem.
right, and they may try to steer them in the direction or try to say to them, man or woman, do I think maybe, you need some help, and I can help you. There are resources out there. Or part of the problem is that we really lack resources. We don't have enough resources, but there are some out there, and that's why at the end of our discussion, I am going to share some websites and some toll-free numbers for people as they listen, if they feel they need to talk to somebody, and or Jill will maybe share some useful tidbits that people can do. Like for you, you said it's writing in a journal. Now, I too write in a journal, and I think Jill, she also writes in a journal. And for you, Rafael, you have your music. And lately for Jill, she has started walking, and she, listens to her music as she walks. And then we also, I tend to be a little creative. So then we have what I call art therapy, where we do things, okay? And, anything to express yourself, because maybe, like you say, part of what the issue or the problem is you have something inside of you that needs to be expressed. And you are fortunate because you can do it through your music. Not everybody has music, but you can have other talents. You can have artistic talents. You can do poetry. It just depends on who you are. You know what I mean?
Mhm. Yeah, I think you're right, and I'm looking forward to those resources you're gonna share later. I'll tell you on firsthand, uh, everything, everything. I'm gonna talk personally because it's such a personal and serious issue, so I don't want to overstep my boundaries.
I understand.
But um, every 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 resource or every step of the way when I was going through those times of discovery, I received great treatment. I'll say everywhere I went, and there's a lot of places all over, but you know every single place was nurturing to me and got me. I learned something
And I think
out
that's
of it.
important for people to know, that it's not like, you know, sometimes in the movies, they make it seem like we don't even want to go there. But yes, I think it can be a nurturing, uplifting kind of experience. And Jill is in here flipping through her, is that a workbook that you got?
This is what I received when I left the intensive outpatient program that I was in, and this was the manual that we used as we went through the program, and you know, just to run through just some chapters, um, we learned about coping with anxiety and stress. We learned about the term mindfulness, which is used a lot, which is basically just being present and letting everything go. Because sometimes when you have a depressive disorder, a lot of it can be triggered by the way that you think. And if you are able to be mindful, be present with yourself, you are able to kind of be an observer of yourself and catch those thoughts before they take you to a place of what I would call darkness and despair. So the mindfulness chapter was about just using all of your senses to check in with yourself. Your What are you hearing? How are you tactically? How are you feeling in terms of your hands and your sense of touch? Um, Smells. Sometimes smells will trigger thinking, memories, just various stimulus that people are affected by that become triggers. And so the mindfulness was trying to teach us, if we ever find ourselves in situations that we recognize as triggers, we know what to do to get grounded, to be present with ourselves. How am I feeling? And what's the temperature like? Am I hot? Am I cold? Um, what am I smelling? Just various questions that you ask yourself just to become grounded, present, and to step out of yourself and be an observer. Actually teaching you how to be your own coach when you find yourself in an anxious or panic situation. And then they went on to teaching us about cognitive behavioral therapy, which is what I was saying before about how certain thoughts bring about emotions that lead to certain behaviors. And so if you're able to catch your thought, and see what type of thinker you are. Some people their thinking is very catastrophic, or their thinking is very overly dramatic, and there are various other categories, and they're called magical thinking, taking things personal, jumping to conclusions, um, having all these should judgments about situations you find yourself in. So basically, it helps you to, once again, like I said, step back and be an observer. Where am I at? Somebody cut you off in traffic, and immediately you're thinking not so great things about them. Well, they teach you how to reframe that thinking and find compassion and say, well, wow, maybe it was an emergency. So, I hope that everything works out for them, versus jumping into an angry stance and maybe having a situation where you have road rage. So, just various examples of where life takes you, and depending on what kind of thinker you are, you can, go down various different roads. So, always the goal to um, ground yourself and ask yourself the truth. Do you know the truth about what just happened? Like, I'm still referring back to somebody cutting you off in traffic. Um, you might be thinking bad things about them. Well, do you know that they're a bad person? Or maybe they were just in a situation. So it give you a number of questions to ask. Is this true? What are the facts? Do I know this to be true? All the things that you need to de-escalate your own emotional, dramatic thinking, which is pretty common when you have anxiety and fear and living a fearful existence. So we went there, and then I talked about self-compassion was one of the last things I said. And that particular chapter lesson was really the most impactful for me, because it taught me to hold on to myself no matter what. And that was something important, because when you're at 60 years old and you look back at your life and you see that the things that didn't go so well, and you make judgments about them, when you can step back and say, well, this is part of my life's journey. Some things maybe don't look the way I wanted them to look, but I learned. I The problems became opportunities, which uh, gave me gifts that I'm able to use now. As I start a new chapter in my life, I know that the journey that I've been on through the darkness and the light times have given me the tools that I need, that I know I can survive anything. So being compassionate with yourself, or wherever situation you find yourself in, is pretty key, and it's pretty key for me to seeing my self-worth and knowing that I don't have to throw in the towel, that I can choose to reframe my life.
Yes.
And not say that it was a disaster.
No, because we all have things, episodes, whatever. And I think more importantly for me is, hopefully that people love you and care for you and want to see you have a different life than the life that you had been leaving, and that you are indeed capable of standing on your own 2 feet and having the kind of life that you want to have.
But the most important thing is that you want that for yourself.
Absolutely.
And that's the key that I was missing. I was doing everything for everyone else and not having anything left for myself.
Which is why self-care, not just for women, but Mr. Rafael, what, if anything, do you do for self-care?
Self-care. um, it's self-care. Well, I mean, basically, I take a lot of showers and I brush my teeth and I do my hair and I try to take care of my body. Just simply take care of my body.
Yes.
It's a good start, and it might sound so simple and naive, but you know what I'm talking about.
We do know what you're talking about, because the people don't understand that when people suffer from any of the disorders that we have named, like Jill said, she literally was in her bed. She couldn't get up out her bed. She had no desire to get, and I'm like trying to wrap my head around that. But I've never, I'm sure I have been depressed, but not depressed in such a manner as I know other people have been depressed. And that's why in this time in 2020, whew, with all the stuff that people are dealing with, not just the virus, but there's so much, racism and fear and fear the unknown, and people who are married or in relationships and have children, and are they going to be able to go to school and have jobs and not have jobs? And it's a lot for people to try to process, and that's whatever release valve you have. Now for me, I do my own yard work, so Jill already thinks I'm crazy because I go out, I was cutting the grass, I was trimming the bougainvillea, and then I have to come inside and do stuff inside the house, and then I was like, oh, now I'm going to be creative, let me do this, let me do that. But that works for me. Okay, it doesn't work for everybody.
Well, the self-care that you described, Raphael, oh my God, if only I could have been able to do self-care in terms of the effort that it takes to get up and go to the bathroom, the effort that it takes to brush your teeth, to take a shower, um, the effort that it takes to comb your hair. I mean, people may not think that there's effort associated with that, but there is. I mean, my family would say to me, when's the last time you took a shower? When's the last time you changed your clothes? And my thinking was, what does it even matter? I'm not going anywhere. I'm not doing anything. You know, I'm just sleeping. Nobody's seeing me. But it did matter. It mattered because I need to love myself enough to take physical care of myself, to put forth the effort because I'm worth it. And that type of thinking just wasn't a place where I was at. I was like, who cares? So what? You know, the sooner I'm out of here, the better. And I mean, the sooner my life is over, the better. Because then I don't have to worry about whether I brushed my teeth or washed my face or took a shower or changed my clothes. And, you know, I was just living a reckless life, hoping maybe I take too much medication. You know, not intentionally, but when you're in that mindset, I couldn't remember. Did I take my meds? Take them again. You know, very reckless. Very reckless. Self-medicating. You know, just anything to stop the pain, to escape through sleeping. A lot of people who are depressed, that's what they do.
Right.
They sleep
a lot
all the time because they just want to escape where they're at.
Yeah, I think, you know, the wanting to sleep, and I think the not paying attention to, you know, getting dressed. You just, yes, I've seen that in other people that were depressed, and I'm just like, you know, trying to be supportive, but then I'm like, okay, now, you know, we gotta move forward here. You know, there is light at the end of the tunnel, you know, yada yada yada. So did you want to weigh in and say anything else? If not, I'm going to share some of the resources that I was able to identify for some of our listeners, Rafael.
Yeah, I'll chime in. Um, I just wanted to encourage anybody out there who might be battling with it or doesn't know if they have something. Or, it doesn't even matter if it's mental illness or not. It could be any sickness like COVID. You might be scared of COVID right now, but I one, I know you got to keep going, and it's hard and easy at the same time. It's hard because um, keep going is hard because um, you might think, well, I'm gonna stop it, but it's not easy to stop it. Life goes on, and so and then personally, my personal take is you just have to put it in. If you're down and your hands aren't working, you have to put it in someone else's hands. And not only that, but you have to trust them. And that is how we pass along this knowledge. That's how we transcend into peace. That's how we, as a collective, as humans, that's how we progress. And we have to lighten the load, I believe. But I want to just encourage everybody, the whole world right now. Just try to take it easy, relax, and when I first got startled because the world got so big, I ran home to my mom and dad. And I know a lot of people who do that. I know a lot. I mean, whatever. I don't know. They, I don't know. It's not like they could or they couldn't help me. It goes back to my first point. It was out of my hands. The
Right.
ball was out of my hands, so I had to give it to somebody. And so, like I said, I gave it to my dad, and so I followed him like a sheep to the slaughter. He took me to the doctor's office. I had no clue what was going on, nothing, and I had to just go through it. I had to go through it, and the doctor said, start asking questions, and I played into that, and that door that I opened led me to a hallway of all these experiences for the next uh, couple of years, and that that's what happened, and so I trusted the people as much as I could. Now I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm not saying I always trust people. Yeah, I was scared at times. I didn't know what was going on. But I think you understand what I'm saying. It's just that whoever it is, it might be Jesus for some people. It might be Muhammad for other people. It might be Buddha. It might be your mom. It might be a doctor. It might be a friend. It might be a lawyer. Sometimes we're just I don't know if I'm saying this the right way, but we're not we're not helpless, but we're powerless, and you just got to get on the winning team. And so um, that's what I recommend for anyone going through a struggle. Um, and there are people and things and all kind of things that God created that are out here in this real earth, this real world that are light. You might call them angels, you might call them
Mhm.
miracles, but there is signs, wonders, things out here positioned on the path of your life that if you keep going, they will give you a little boost, a little
Yeah,
momentum just to get to the next day.
absolutely.
And the longer you keep going, the more often you'll see them till
Hmm.
you become that thing. You
Yeah.
become that thing that people see, and they're like, "Wow, look at Gilda, look at Pamela,"
Look at
you know.
Raphael. Look at us. How about that?
Yeah, and because not everybody can hear all the time, and not everybody can see all the time. But when they look at you or they hear you, certain people, because I'm a, I'm gonna bring it back to music because I don't want to get too deep. But I have a friend. His name is. Well, I'm not gonna drop his name, but I have a friend, and I was in high school, and we were making music together, right?
Mm-hmm.
And we had like two songs, and we showed some girls our songs, and they were like, "Oh, we felt all good because they're girls." And so then he calls me like a couple nights later, and he is gassing me up. He's like, "Yo, we could do this. No, I'm serious. We could really do this. Did you see the way they liked our songs? I really think they could do this." And I remember this like it's my brightest day ever because I heard him. He was talking to me, and it
Right.
did not go out one ear to the other ear. It went straight to my heart. And I tell you, I ran with that for the next 5, 7 years, and I made something so big out of that one little conversation. And it's not just money, not just fame. I made something, and I felt great about it because I
And
heard them.
exactly. And I just want to add that I asked you to create music for my podcast, and you, in fact, delivered. And I'm eternally grateful for that. And I know that's just the beginning of more music that I'm going to ask you to create for me. Okay. So, what I would like to do at this time is thank both Jill and Raphael. And also, what I'm going to do, I'm going to try to figure out how to get maybe just the audio for the town hall that the Congressional Black Caucus did. That's going to be in a separate podcast episode. But I just want to leave everyone with these resources. If people are in need, you can either go to the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. Their toll free number is 800 662 4357. The Mental Health America, 800-273-8255, or if there's an immediate need, you can text M as in Mary, H as in Harry, A as in Adam to 741741. There's the National Alliance on Mental Illness, which is 800-950, N as in Nancy, A as in Apple, M as in Mary, I as in is, or the last four digits are 6264. Or you can text NAMI to 741741. And then there's a website that has resources for people no matter where you all are in the world. That's psychcom, PSYCOM.net. And that has a list of worldwide resources. And Jill is pointing out to me National Suicide Hotline, 1-800-784-2433 or 800-273-8255. And if you're hearing or speech impaired, it would be 1-800-799-4889. The bottom line, no one has to do this by themselves. No one has to be in darkness. People that are listening, if you or someone you know, you believe is something is not right with them, reach out to them. If you're mistaken, no harm, no foul. But if indeed they are in need of whatever, compassion, just you reaching out to them and showing them that you care enough to ask the question speaks volumes. So on that note, I want to say good night. And in the next day or so, I'm going to try to just do the audio for the town hall that the Congressional Black Caucus held this past Friday on mental illness. Thank you again, Rafael.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me. Have a good night.
You're welcome. Thank you, Jill.
You're very welcome.
Love you both. Over and out.